Raider Nation, Tyree Wilson is ready to break out and turn into a superstar defensive end in 2024. This offseason, he's been in the lab. He's been grinding in the facility with guys like Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz. He had a press conference a few days ago, and I can't play that due to copyright issues, but, he mentioned that he's worked on his get off in the offseason. He's worked on his pass rush arsenal as well. And, he's worked with a nutritionist to get his body right and get his nutrition plans and meal prep absolutely perfect. So, he's really dialing in his prep work for this upcoming season. And I'm personally really excited about this because, when you look at last season, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to agree with this, he didn't produce at the level that a number 7 overall pick should produce at. He didn't have a tangible impact on these games that he played in. A few times he got a few cleanup sacks that were meaningless. He wasn't a game wrecker like you would expect him to be. But that being said, I don't think he's the next bust Cleveland Farrell type player. And that's because his issues that he had last season, I believe, are pretty fixable. When you first and foremost, when you look at his number one issue was his get off. Especially at the start of last season against the Denver Broncos, against the Bills, those early season games, the quarterback would take the snap, and it seemed like everyone else would get off the defensive line, and he'd still be in his pass rush set. So he wasn't getting off. He'd be half a second to a second late. And, in the modern NFL, when quarterbacks are trying to get the ball out quick, that half a second, 1 second is really, it's important. You can't waste that as a pass rusher. So there'd be times where Maxx Crosby would fly off the edge and he would still be in a set, which was a major issue last season. Brian Baldinger called this out as well. Shout out to him. But I think that's a fixable issue. That's really a timing thing. Getting acclimated to the speed of the game, when to, jump out of your set. That's not a talent thing. That's more of just, an experience thing and, learning how to time that snap. So I think with the reps he had, he didn't have a lot of reps in training camp. Obviously, he had a foot injury last season, so he couldn't, practice as much as he would have liked to in training camp last season. So when you look at this season under Antonio Pierce, I think he's going to have a lot more reps in training camp to dial that in. So he's going to be more acclimated to the speed of the game. So that's first and foremost. And second, I think his pass rush arsenal is going to be much improved this season. When you look at a guy like Khalil Mack, he only had 4 sacks his rookie season. And obviously you can't compare Tyree Wilson to Khalil Mack. That's just, you can't do that. That's unfair to Tyree. But Khalil, he only had 4 sacks, and only until he had the tutelage of, a Justin Tuck and a Lamar Woodley was he able to get 15 sacks in his second year. He had to learn those pass rush moves. He was more of a run defender in his first season. And, as he, moved along in his career, he was able to develop as a pass rusher. So when you look at Tyree, he was kind of thrown into the fire last season with the Chandler Jones CTE incident. He was thrown into the fire and expected to be that, first and second down pass rusher slash run defender. And I don't think he was ready for all those responsibilities. But, now when you look at the guys he has over him, Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz, those guys are primarily pass rushers and they can teach him the moves, teach him that swim move, the hand fightage, you know, the spin move, cross chop, whatever it is. Those guys are going to be able to teach him and mentor him and bring him up to speed on everything pass rush. So even Christian Wilkins, I forgot to throw him in there. He played on the inside, but he's still a bona fide superstar pass rusher first and foremost. So, yeah, I think we got the guys in front of him, the veteran presence. We have an influx of talent at that position. So Tyree's not going to be forced to, start week one like he was last season. So he's going to be able to learn behind those guys and, take it slower. Yeah, so when you combine those two things, his get off and his pass rush arsenal that he's going to develop in the second season, combining that with his raw talent that he already showed, in spots last season, and granted this was preseason, that the play that I'm going to be alluding to, but there was a play against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to play it on the screen. He literally just walked this offensive tackle back like he was a man amongst boys. Not a lot of guys can do that with his length and his wingspan. That's very rare in the NFL. And that's why Josh McDaniels and Ziegler ended up drafting him. But combining, the veteran aspects that he's going to develop in terms of his get off and his pass rush moves, combining that with his raw talent, I don't think he's going to be the next Cleveland Farrell. I think next season you could be looking at a guy with 7 or 8 sacks sitting behind guys like Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz, putting him in situational pass rush moments. I think that'll help Tyree. And I don't think you're not going to want to move him inside. A lot of people have been saying that, advocating for that, but I don't think that's the answer because, that happened with Cleveland Farrell. He didn't have the best success, obviously, at defensive end. And, there were a lot of fans, a lot of the media were pounding the table for him to move inside. And, they did that in spots, but I don't think that was the best for his development. When you look at defensive tackles, they're really known for their, run stuffing ability. They're not known for explosive and, getting off that end and bend and speed. They're known for clogging up the middle. You have your guys like Christian Wilkins who are anomalies, but Tyree, if you want him to develop into that superstar edge rusher, moving him inside is only going to hinder his progress. So, I think there's no need to rush him in because we have guys like Malcolm Kuntz and Crosby. Kuntz wasn't established last season. It was really Tyree who was expected to go and start. And, like I mentioned, that wasn't the best thing for him. So, him learning behind guys like this, I think that'll be the best for him, especially in this offseason. The thing with Malcolm Kuntz is if he goes and has a 10, 11 sack season, he's going to command a lot of money. And I don't think the Raiders, you know, I don't know if they're going to be able to afford that. So maybe you franchise tag Kuntz for a year, but it's going to be tough to pay. We just gave Maxx Crosby, a $6 million raise. So you can't have two $20 million ends. That's just not sustainable in the NFL. So having Crosby and then Kuntz, maybe you tag him for a year, but you're going to expect Tyree to take his place eventually because it's hard to have Kuntz and Crosby there for your long term. I think the plan right now is to have Crosby and Tyree there for your long term solutions. And Kuntz, I don't know, maybe there's a trade situation that happens with him, but yeah, Tyree Wilson, I'm expecting a lot more from him in his second season. I think he can do it. I think he has the talent to do it. Just a matter of putting, the positive reps on tape and really showing who he is. And that's a dominant pass rusher. And I truly believe he can reach that potential. He can start to reach that potential this upcoming season. But yeah, Raider Nation, thanks for the support. We really appreciate it on this channel. Trying to grow and hit that 1,000 subscriber threshold to get monetized on this channel. But yeah, continue liking the videos, subscribing most importantly. Leave a comment down below. Share this page with your friends if you guys enjoy. But yeah, until then, Jahan signing off. Thank you guys.